My question is to the Minister for Education, Training and Skills. How does the Minister respond to concern raised by members of my community after presentation, at Renmark High School on March 22? And will you all leave, sir, that of the House? I'll explain.
Leave sort of said granted. Member for Chaffey.
On March 22, students at Renmark High were subject to a session that was supposed to be dealing with issues of respectful relationships and consent, but which instead descended into an utterly inappropriate content including bestiality, incest, and a number of students felt so uncomfortable they left the room. At least one family has withdrawn their children from the school, and now I'm advised that parental consent was not sought before the session and that no teacher remained in the room before the duty of care.
Shame.
Minister.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for Chaffey for what is a very important question, and happy to have the opportunity to address the concerns that he rightfully raises in this place, Mr Speaker. And I won't in any way seek to defend the presentation that was given to those Renmark High School students. It was inappropriate. I've said that publicly. The Chief Executive of the Education Department, Martin Westwell, has said that publicly. And I'll continue to say that, and happy to be very frank in my comments in here, Mr Speaker, in addressing the points that the member for Chaffey has raised. Mistakes were made. Policies and procedures that are in place for a very important reason were not followed. Chiefly, two of those were making sure that parents of those Year 9 students who are going to be part of the Respectful Relationships session being advised beforehand, so they had the opportunity of withdrawing their children from that session if they wished, as the member for Chaffey alluded to in his explanation. Making sure also that there was always a teacher inside the room when the presentation was given place, which also did not occur. The reference, of course, to bestiality and incest was inappropriate and doesn't have a place in that presentation. I might use the opportunity, however, Mr Speaker, to point out the context in which they were used. They were used in an attempt to explain some of the horrific vilification that the gay community has received historically, where it was likened acts of incest and bestiality to sex between same-sex couples. That, as I understand it, as has been explained to me, is the effort that that presenter was making and was not done appropriately and had no place in a presentation of high school students like that. And there are a number of things we are seeking to do to make sure this can't happen again. The presentation in this case was conducted by a group called Focus One Health, who are the regional provider of respectful relationships sessions. They are subcontracted by Headspace, who do a lot of this work, Mr Speaker, nationally. I understand it was Focus One who sought the services of the person who gave this inappropriate presentation. They have been suspended at this stage. That is Focus One Health. We have done a lot of investigation around whether or not the person that they approached to actually give the presentation to students has done so in any other of our schools. The advice, Mr Speaker, that I have at this stage, although investigations continue, is that that has not occurred, which is a good thing. And we have put out communications which have already made their way out to schools, reminding them about the obligations that they have to follow the very important policies and procedures that are in place around making sure parents are notified when these sessions are going to occur, to give them the ability to withdraw their child if that is what they want, and making sure that staff are present in the room at all times. So they are some of the steps we have taken at this stage, but I want to reassure the member for Chaffey and all other members of this place that I am not in any way seeking to defend what happened, but what we are doing is making sure we take the strongest available course of action that is available to me and the Chief Executive of the Education Department to make sure that in the future policies and procedures are followed and this kind of thing can't actually happen again.
Member for Chaffey.
My question is again to the Minister for Education, Training and Skills. Minister, will the government provide counselling and support for students and families impacted by the Renmark presentation, and if so, have parents been notified directly for this opportunity?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Chaffey for the question. Yes, we will. I understand those offers of counselling to students have already been made. I understand that in particular some parents of those students and the students themselves have made it very clear that they felt traumatised by what they were exposed to in that presentation, and I think for that reason the offer of counselling is a very important one. I've been told that that has been made on numerous occasions. I don't have any information at this stage for the member for Chaffey about what the uptake of that has been like, but we will make sure that those offers are continually made. They're normally made directly through the school to parents, and I know that the principal in this case, who I might also add has made no excuses for what took place, has said up front it was a mistake and the wrong thing was done, and we'll seek to make sure it doesn't happen again. But he has met, I understand, with both the students who were part of the session and also their parents as well, in an attempt to not only apologise, which he has done, for what took place, but to try to make sure that the supports they need now by way of counselling and anything else are actually offered.
Member for Morialta.
Noting the Minister's earlier answers, why weren't parental notification procedures followed, and how will that matter be addressed?
Minister.
Speaker, and I thank the member for Morialta for his question, and that is indeed a good question. And as I said, investigation continues into exactly what took place and how we got to a stage where someone who shouldn't have been giving a presentation like this, Mr. Speaker, was not only giving the presentation but was giving it with an absence of any staff members there and in the absence of parental approval being given as well. I'm happy to update both the member for Morialta and this House once I have a clearer picture of why that wasn't done, but I've already been alerted and seen the communications that have gone out from 31 Flinders Street to all our schools and leaders, reminding them very clearly of all the obligations they have in relation to the providing respectful relationships sessions to students, both in terms of making sure that parents are given the opportunity to withdraw their kids from it in advance if they wish, and also making sure that there are staff there present at all times.
Member for Morialta and then the member for Playford.
Thank you, sir. And again, noting the Minister's earlier responses, was the school in breach of its duty of care obligations to its students by leaving them unsupervised during this session with a third-party provider? And if so, what action is the department taking to respond to this aspect of the incident?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again I thank the member for Morialta for what is a very fair question. And I think it, without delving into the legalities of the matter around duty of care, I think the school itself and the principal has acknowledged that they did fail in their duty of care there, because although I understand they had staff outside the classroom where the presentation was being offered, and there were, I think it was glass windows and they had line of sight, that's not good enough and they should have been in the room at all times. The school has acknowledged that, the Chief Executive has acknowledged that, as Minister I'm acknowledging that as well. I completely accept that very important policies and procedures that are in place for a reason to prevent things like this from happening didn't happen, and we need to do better. And I think given the very important and clear duty of care that our schools and its staff have to the young people who are in their care, I think it is fair to say that we failed in that regard. But the investigation that I've already spoken about in answering the earlier questions by the member for Chaffey is also looking at where responsibility lay for making sure those policies and procedures were followed, why they weren't, and what repercussions there might be for a failure to do so.